Hello, welcome back. It is I, Maple of Syrup, and I'm here to read some things. Not entirely sure what, but we're gonna figure it out together. I just want to do a quick shout out to Amala Glomata. Um, they commented on my first item description reading video, and they asked for more, so I figured, sure, why not? So that's what we're here for today. Um, and I figured, what more serene of a place to just talk quietly than up here at the Gate of Divinity? Uh, and yeah, it's made of corpses, and the suffering up here is truly monumental. But besides that, it's pretty relaxing, I think. So we're just gonna cozy on up to our grace. That is the wrong one. I'll just do it manually. And I think what I'll be doing is reading some incantations for you because my Maple of Syrup, she is a predominantly faith and also strength build. So incantations are kind of my favorite. And after the DLC, which I completed kind of a long time ago now, back when it was first out, but I am obsessed with Mikola and the divinity, so we might as well just, yeah. I think what I'll do, I could go through recent items at some point, but I think instead what I'm gonna do is go to incantations. And I have a lot of them. Um, let's see, I guess I'll just start with the first one. With Urgent Heal. Incantation of the Two Fingers Faithful. Heals a small amount of HP. This incantation can be cast while in motion. The Two Fingers has high hopes for the Tarnished, that even if they should be wounded, even should they fall, they will continue to fight for their duty. Okay. Great Heal and Heal are the same. I won't bother repeating. Cure Poison. Incantation of the Two Fingers Faithful. Alleviates poison buildup and cures poison. This incantation can be cast while in motion. The Two Fingers have high hope for the Tarnished. I see, I see. This is why I was thinking I might not want to do this, the incantations, because a lot of them are very repetitive. So I figured maybe I could go through and do some weapons. So I'll do those instead, actually. Uh, this is the Misery I'm sure it's like French as hell, but dagger favored by military physicians in white. The pointed blade is hard and sharp, making critical hits especially potent. Medicine is mercy, and mercy upon the battlefield is ruthless. Beware the killers clothed as men of compassion. Bloodstained dagger. Dagger with a bloodstained blade. Afflicts target with blood lost. As blood darkened the dagger through repeated slashing and stabbing, its blade only grew sharper and harder. We have the Erdsteel dagger. An Erdsteel dagger with grass crest engraved upon its blade, carried by the Erdtree royalty for self-defense in times of peace. Though forged to a high standard, the weapon is difficult to wield. Attack power also scales with faith. Oh, this might be a good weapon for me then. And I have two of them, how nice. The Wakizashi, short sword with a tempering pattern on the blade, a weapon unique to warriors of the land of the reeds, afflicts targets with blood loss. These swords are considered auxiliary weapons, yet one man is known to wield this weapon in his left hand while using a full-size katana in his right, a demonic swordsman known only as Okina. The Mangosh, don't know, intended to be used in the left hand, thereby complementing a piercing sword or identical blade held in the right to enable a distinctive style of fighting. I do have an intelligence build file, and I also have a dexterity build file, but the dexterity is just starting, and I am very curious about some of these rapiers and things like that. The ivory sickle is a sickle fashioned from ivory, weapon carried by aged Albinaurics. These weapons are evidence of their dedication to the Haligtree, despite never having entered its presence. That's interesting, because we do know there are Albinaurics there, right? Pretty sure. The crystal knife. A knife made by sharpening hard crystal. Signature weapon of glintstone miners. Used as a tool to extract glintstone from broken rock, and as such, a faint magic enwreaths the blade. Scorpion stinger. A dagger fashioned from a great scorpion's tail, glistening with scarlet wrought. A ceremonial tool used by heretics, crafted from the relic of a sealed outer god. I wonder how sealed the outer god of rot really is. It's very interesting. Uh, I'm a big fan of rot, to be honest. Glintstone Chris. Ritual blade once presented to Leyndell by the Academy of Rea Lucaria to celebrate their newfound peace. Though the weapon is embedded with precious glintstones and features Erdtree ornamentation, the undulating blade is symbolic of an ancient ritual. The Reduvia, this is a really popular one. Jagged dagger with a distinctive curved blade, used by the noble servants of the Lord of Blood. This dagger rips the flesh as it enters, inflicting blood loss with sickening efficacy. A proud testament to the success of its vicious design, this weapon is perpetually coated in blood. Big fan of blood sorcery as well, just in general, not just Elden Ring. Black Knife. Oh, this is from the Black Knife Assassins. Dagger once belonging to one of the assassins who murdered Godwyn the Golden on the night of the Black Knives. A ritual performed on the oddly misshapen blade imbued it with the power of the stolen Rune of Death. I wonder if they used a black blade on Ronnie when they killed her body and they killed Godwyn's spirit. Um, the Smith script dagger, which is one of the new ones that you can... Oh, well that's news to me. Alright, right back on track. Smith script dagger. Dagger engraved with a Smith script. Reduced mass enhances the effects of the smithing arts, allowing this weapon to function as a throwing dagger for all attacks. Once thrown, the dagger instantly reappears in the wielder's hand, incompatible with Ashes of War that grant skills with an affinity. I really do like the throwing weapons, but I like the throwing hammer more for the sheer humor. Short sword. A short, straight sword with a short blade. In addition to its reliable standard damage, this weapon also boasts powerful piercing attacks. Lightweight amongst straight swords, this weapon is easy to wield, requiring only humble attributes. Let's see, I think we're getting into more of the repetition. Here we go. Now these are the non-basic weapons, I suppose. Weathered straight sword. Straight sword with a rather short but wide blade. Simple to wield, it was known as the sword of the people. Though the Erdtree styling is still visible, time has not been kind to the... Time has not been kind to the sword, now merely a shadow of its former self. Just like the Erdtree. Wow, it's like irony or whatever. Lord Sworn Straight Sword. Well-crafted straight sword with an illustrious design, wielded by regulars of a lord's army. Though blackened and damaged by years of use, it appears to have otherwise been kept in a serviceable condition, despite the soldiers having long since lost their minds. Hey, I mean, haven't we all? The Cane Sword. Beloved sword of an aged knight whose last quest was long behind him, repurposed into a walking stick. The tip is rather worn, though bent of back and without the brawn required even to raise the sword aloft. Still he wished to meet his end with weapon in hand. Warhawk's Talon. Talon swords are affixed to the legs of Stormvale's warhawks, but this one has been repurposed for human use. The blade is thin and lightweight so as not to obstruct the hawk's mobility. Lazuli Glintstone Sword. A sword with a glintstone in its handguards. Wielded by scholars of the Lazuli Conspectus who seek to master carrion sorcery. Deals magic damage. Apparently once used as a staff of sorcery, this sword is made of wood. Oh, that's interesting. The Carrion Knight's Sword. Straight sword embedded with a blue glintstone. Weapon of knights sworn to Carrion royalty. These knights' swords could serve as catalyst, letting them wield sorcerous battle skills. Despite numbering fewer than 20, this power made them a match for even the champions of gold in battle. It's interesting. Crystal Sword. Sword fashioned from pure crystal. A deed impossible for a human. And wreathed with powerful magic, its attack scales with intelligence. The inscrutable Crystallians have but one clear purpose, to safeguard their crystals unto the end. One theory posits that they yearn for the return of their creator, who will carve for them new brethren. Huh. I actually don't know a lot about Crystallians. Ooh, the Rotten Crystal Sword. Sword fashioned from pure crystal, a deed impossible for a human, it festers with scarlet rot. And wreathed with powerful magic, its attacks scale with intelligence. The Mickelan Night Sword, which you better believe I have that +9. Sword forged by servants of Miquella of the Halig Tree, with a design modeled after those carried by Carrion knights. Instead of the glintstone, however, amber from the Halig Tree is embedded in the blade. A sumptuous piece, yet it has never been offered to any knight, an ill-starred sword with no master. We have the Ornamental Straight Sword, a slender straight sword patterned after an antique ornament. Superior swordsmen prefer to wield one in each hand. After falling from grace, the dregs of the golden lineage sought power and purpose in the past. The Golden Epitaph, a sword made to commemorate the death of Godwyn the Golden, first of the demigods to die, infused with the humble prayer of a young boy. O brother, O Lord brother, please die a true death. Yeah, that's... Huh. I do wonder if this is so that he could kill Godwyn in, you know, send him to the land of death to be his consort as opposed to Radahn, but I'm not so sure. The Sword of Saint Trina. Silver sword carried by the clerics of Saint Trina, inflicts sleep ailment upon foes. Saint Trina is an enigmatic figure. Some say she is a comely young girl. Others are sure he is a boy. The only certainty is that their appearance was as sudden as their disappearance. Then we have the Velvet Sword of Saint Trina. Silver Sword of Saint Trina, now stained the color of velvet, inflicts eternal sleep. When Saint Trina was abandoned, the faint light purple mist coalesced into an intoxicating, deep purple cloud. Also, if Nicola was going to have an age of compassion and save everyone, what does it say that he could not even save himself? Because he cast Saint Trina aside. And is it really an age of compassion if, you have to be sacrificed to get there? The Regalia of Eocade. Treasured sword of Eocade, a lesser long-vanished domain. The copper coloration is not to be confused for rust, but is a conduit for its wielder to move it by their will alone. Sword of Eocade dance through the skies. Eocade? I don't know. The Coated Sword. Hidden sword once granted to the tarnished of the Round Table by the Two Fingers. A formless cipher comprises its blade, which deals holy damage no shield can repel. Champions would gather at the Round Table hold in long days past, when the two fingers were masters of oration, their flesh yet full of vigor. I do wonder, well, according to, oh, it's not Meter. Meter is the mother of fingers. The gentleman, uh, Count Emir, according to him, they were wrong from the start, and the fingers never really had any knowledge, no contact with the greater well. But that is, it's a lot to consider. The Sword of Night and Flame. I'm gonna drink a little drink. If you have not had water today, you should probably get some water. The Sword of Night and Flame. Storied sword and treasure of Caria Manor. One of the legendary armaments. Astrologers, who preceded the sorcerers, established themselves in mountain tops that nearly touched the sky, and considered the fire giants their neighbors. Sword of Light, which is a DLC sword that I really like because it um, boosts your holy attacks, and I am a holy person. Sword of Light, pulled from its stone scabbard in an altar, from the quick from the quick of the root, unswerving rays of light intersect and reflect to give the silver blade form. Huh. So is it quite literally a sword made of light? That's interesting. Leda's sword. Leda. See, I'd like to use this, but it's dexterity. I really hope I don't end up like Elon Musk, where people like screenshot my build, and they're like, "What the fuck?" Anyway, light great sword with gold inlaid, weapon of Leda, the Needle Knight, deals holy damage. Though polished to a mirror sheen, this blade still reeks with the stench of crusted blood that lingers from the cull of her knightly comrades. Appears to target all the ones. Claymore. A large sword with a long, straight blade. This heavy sword is usually wielded with two hands, but for those with enough strength, one is sufficient. In addition to the heavy sweeping attacks, it can also make a heavy piercing thrust, making this a versatile weapon. Then we have, let's see, the Lord Sworn's Great Sword. Well-crafted straight sword with an illustrious design, wielded by the regulars of a lord's army. Kept in serviceable condition despite the soldiers having lost their minds. The Knight's Great Sword. Great sword bestowed upon skilled swordsmen in the demigod's service, and yet had no rank or title. Featuring a long grip enabling dual-handed use, this weapon was designed to dispatch larger foes. Being charged with such a duty was undoubtedly a great honor. We have the Lizard Greatsword. I also believe this is new, though I'm not sure. I probably isn't actually. I think I just got it after the DLC came out. A peculiar weapon carried by imps. Great sword smith in the shape of a fork-tongued lizard. Strong attacks allow the wielder to fire the forked tongue from the blade. I've seen some invasion videos with this, and it looks really fun. Gargoyle's Greatsword. Bronze greatsword wielded by the valiant gargoyles. Just like the wielder, the missing parts have been mended with corpse wax, a patchwork of champions. Corpse wax. Isn't... I don't want to go off on too much of a limb here, but I'm trying to remember what corpse wax actually is. Never mind. I know what you know what I mean. Gargoyle's Blackblade. Bronze greatsword wielded by the valiant gargoyles, mended with blackened corpse wax, deals holy damage. Such is the mark of those who serve Malakath, the Black Blade. The Inseparable Sword. Sword forged by the compounding silver and gold, a sacred weapon to hunt those who live in death, deals holy damage. The Inseparable Twins found solace in the Golden Order, the only institution not to revile them as accursed beings. Sword of Milos. Sinister great sword fashioned from a giant's backbone. Meets out wounds like a lopsided saw blade and restores some FP upon defeating an enemy. Milos was undersized for a giant and was viewed as sullied and terribly grotesque. We have the Mirai Executioner's Sword. Storied sword of the House Mirai, the family of executioners who presided over the Shaded Castle, one of the legendary ornaments. Alamer of the Briar, the bell-bearing hunter, snatched the sword from the site of his looming execution and furnished it with battle skills from the home of Eocade. Great Sword of Solitude. Steel great sword wielded by the knights of the solitary jail. Though through a secret rite they relinquished their hearts for heightened battle prowess. Next, they engraved their blades with two crests, one depicting the light of birth and the other solitude. Ordovis's great sword. It's such a pet peeve of mine when people forget that when something ends in an S, an apostrophe makes it possessive. You don't have to do an apostrophe S. Anyway. Great Sword of Ordovis, honored one of the two honored is foremost among the Crucible Knights. This sword is imbued with an ancient holy essence. Its red tint exemplifies the nature of primordial gold, said to be close in nature to life itself. Helfin's Steeple. Great sword patterned after the black steeple of the Helfin, the lampwood which guides the dead of the spirit world. The lamplight is similar to Grace in appearance, only it is said that it can only be seen by those who met their death in battle. The Blasphemous Blade, which we are all familiar with, you've seen, you've heard. The Sacred Sword of Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy. Remains of the countless heroes he has devoured writhe upon the surface of this blade. Now if they share the same blood, bound together as family, some HP is restored upon defeating an enemy. The Golden Order Greatsword, which I kind of want to be able to use its attacks. Dang. Great sword made of light, modeled after the Elden Ring itself, forged by the King Consort Radagon to proudly symbolize the tenets of the Golden Order, one of the legendary ornaments. Telltale signs betray that this was once the great sword bequeathed to him by his first wife, Renala. Yeah, that is the gift. The Dark Moon Greatsword. A moon greatsword bestowed upon a Carian queen upon her spouse to honor long-standing tradition, one of the legendary ornaments. Rani's sigil is a full moon, cold and leaden, and this sword is but a beam of its light. The Great Sword of Damnation, which is a DLC weapon. Golden greatsword that once pierced the body of Midra, master of the Manse, used by the Hornsent in the execution of a damnation like no other. The barbs that pierce the victim from within wind gently around the blade. This Sacred Relic Sword. Sword wrought from the remains of a god who should have lived a life eternal. Thoughts on what the weapon portends are many and varied. Some consider it the mark of a great sin, or a sign of great devastation. Some think of it as the end of an age, while others the beginning. Yeah, this is the weapon that the Elden Beast forged out of Radagon's corpse. Zweihander. This is another basic one. Great sword. Let's see. The Troll's Golden Sword. Sword given to the lesser giants who fought for the Erd Tree during the war against the giants long ago. Though they have lost their minds, they stay inseparable from their swords that are in sad shape, such that the gold plating had flaked away. Oh, they weren't gold, they were just plated gold. That's okay. Troll's Night Sword. Great sword embedded with a blue glintstone, weapon of the trolls in service to the royal family of Caria. Called into service when the queen invoked an oath they swore, The trolls are treated as true knights of Karya and fight arm in arm with their human comrades. The Moonrithel's Night Sword has the same picture. Uh, Great sword embedded with a blue glintstone, the favored weapon of the steadfast Carian knight, Moonrithil. Moonrithil was the twin moon knight's chamberlain. She was also a friend to the trolls who served the royal family and proudly wielded their weapons as she fought arm in arm with her gargantuan comrades. Oh, I see. It's the same picture because they're the same sword. We have the Royal Greatsword. Greatsword decorated in royal Carian style. Favored weapon of Blade, the half-wolf. In defiance of the fate he was born to, Blade swore to serve no master but Rani. As proof, the sword was imbued with a cold magic at the moment the oath was sworn. We have the grafted Blade Greatsword, the storied sword of Castle Morn, a revenger's weapon. It is burdened with oceans of anger and regret, one of the legendary armaments. A lone surviving champion from a country now vanished was so determined to continue fighting that he claimed the swords of an entire clan of warriors. Ruin's Greatsword. Originally rubble from a ruin which fell from the sky, this surviving fragment was honed into a weapon, one of the legendary armaments. The ruin it came from crumbled when struck by a meteorite. As such, this weapon harbors its destructive power. Oh. Crumbled when struck by a meteorite. Is that is that confirmation that the fallen ruins, that airborne town or whatever, uh, was struck by a meteor? I wonder which one it was. Like if it was the Elden Beast or I'm not sure. Ancient meteoric ore greatsword, one of the treasures of the ruined forges. Great sword of ancient meteoric ore, ending in a sharp point. Fashioned from an excavated shard of an arrowhead that was once a part of the old god's arsenal, a capable piercing weapon that excels at thrusting attacks. And then we have the Star Scourge Greatsword, which is of course Radahn's. Curved great swords of black steel wielded by General Radahn, a pair of weapons decorated with a lion-mane motif. Radahn earned considerable renown as the Star Scourge in his youth, and it is said that it was during this time he engraved the gravity crest upon these blades. Malakath's Blackblade. Malakath's Blackblade, which once harbored the power of the Rune of Death, a sad shadow, a sad shadow of its former glory. After a fragment of death was stolen on that fateful night, Malakath bound the blade within his own flesh, such that none might ever rob death again. Rogier's Rapier. Piercing sword of superior quality, featuring intricate ornamentation. Signature weapon of the sorcerer Rogier. High dexterity is required to wield the blade to its full potential, but mastery is a sight to behold, characterized by a flowing style which excels in successive attacks. The Frozen Needle, a razor-thin piercing blade of ice, forged by Iji, the Carian royal blacksmith, can inflict frost upon enemies and launch its blade with a strong attack. The blade immediately regenerates. The Carian sorcery sword. I'm gonna drink real quick. One of the Carian royal family's glintstone swords, a smaller piercing sword with a slender blade, formerly used by the Carian knights of old before the full refinement of their sorcerous combat techniques. This armament functions as a catalyst for glintstone sorcery when executing strong attacks. I know it's the Great Epie, but the Great EP. Are you feeling the Great EP right now? Are you EP? Large rapier featuring a thin, sharp blade, commonly used in life or death duels. Like its smaller counterparts, it is made for thrusting attacks and can be used while guarding with a shield. The Godskin Stitcher. Elegant piercing sword with a celadon-colored blade wielded by Godskin nobles. Celadon? The nobles possess skill with the sword unmatched by any lowborn. Despite its size, successive attacks from this weapon are swifter than the eye can follow. We've got Queline's Greatsword. Greatsword of the Fire Knight Queline. A weighty piercing sword with a blade that undulates like fire. Queline devoted his all to the crusade, and remade his greatsword in the shape of the lance wielded by his liege, aspiring to become a second Impaler. So he worked for Mesmer, and this is a DLC weapon. We have the Sword Lance. Um, why is this plus 20? I really don't know. Weapon once wielded by Commander Gaius, a combination of greatsword and lance. Weighty and capable of being brought to bear with great force, this armament shows its true potential when used astride a mount. Gaius himself was never without his boar. Gaius doesn't have any legs though, does he? I don't think he does. He is a weird parallel to Radon in that way, with his gravity magic and stuff. Scimitar. Let's see, this is another basic one. Falchion, this is another basic one. Although, the Falchion and Fire Emblem, that's not basic. Let's see. Bandit's Curved Sword. Curved sword with a light crescent-shaped blade, used by bandits who ran rampant in the wake of the Shattering. Most of the blade is now darkened and covered in rust, but with enough dexterity this weapon may still stand up to some use. The Scavenger's Curved Sword. Unique curved sword, notched like shark's teeth. Weapon carried by corpse pillagers who prowl the sites of old battles. The blade is tacky with blood and covered in hefty nicks, making it totally uneven. Life can be sinister indeed. The Mantis Blade, a curved sword with a blade at both ends wielded by the cemetery shades, the insect-ridden gravekeepers. The blade is thin and sharp, and strong attack unleashes a far-reaching slash. Beastman's Curved Sword. Curved sword forged of dull iron wielded by the beastmen of Farum Azula. The blade is heavy but well balanced, comparatively easy to wield for the damage it delivers. Yeah, Farum Azula. Because I imagine all the Fallen Ruins are from Farum Azula. And if a meteorite came, that could be, I don't know his name. He's like the large skull with a blue eye and mandibles, looks very insect-like. You fight him before you get to Ronnie. Don't know his name. It's been a long time. I wonder if that was his meteor that destroyed Farum Azula. Or maybe it was like Elden Stars. I don't know. You know, you gotta wonder. Serpent God's Curved Sword. Curved sword fashioned in the image of an ancient serpent deity and a tool of a forgotten religion practiced on Mount Gelmir. Formerly used to offer up sacrifices, this sword restores HP upon slaying an enemy. The Nox Flowing Sword. A grim weapon wielded by the swordsmen of the Eternal City. This shottle has a blade as fine as a needle. Forged from the liquid metal of a silver tear, it is thoroughly tempered until hardened. Falx. Curved swords with long sickle-like blades. A pair of weapons made to be wielded in both hands. Forged by a horn sent in the name of revenge. In vengeance for the flames, my blade I wield. Is this like the Hornsent guy from the DLC? Yeah. Dancing Blade of Ranah. This is another DLC one. Decorative swords ablaze with impassioned red. A pair of weapons made to be wielded in both hands. Used by the dancers of Ranah. Strike enemies with a dancing assault when executing a strong attack. Interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure the Dancer of Ranah has the same model as Tanith from Mount Gelmir. Um, so I think this is like an older version of Tanith. Uh, Horned Warrior's Sword, +9. Curved sword of the Horned Warriors. keepers of the tower. The ornamental tangled horns allow the blade to serve as a medium for horn calling. The eclipse shottle. I'm pretty sure it's shottle. It's not shotel. Give me 1 second to blow my nose. Did you miss me because I missed you so terribly? I was scared. Storied sword and treasure of Castle Sol that depicts an eclipsed sun drained of color. One of the legendary armaments. In Sol, the sight of an eclipse inspires a dreadful awe, preventing an onlooker from averting his gaze. Dismounter. This curved greatsword, wielded by the brawny sellswords of Kaiden, combines the blade of a scimitar with the heft of a hatchet. A difficult-to-handle weapon that demands much of the wielder's strength and dexterity, but with practice and ability it can serve as a versatile weapon, even on horseback. The Omen Cleaver. Heavy-bladed curved sword of the colossal size awarded to Omen as a tool of war. This weapon is made to take advantage of brute strength. The pattern etched upon the blade is a remnant of a deteriorative malediction. Indeed, when bestowing a weapon, preparations must be used for taking it away. Must be made for me taking it away. See, that's the thing. I can say like deteriorative malediction first try, no problem. But when it comes to saying things like must or taking, that's the real trauma. Um, Freya's greatsword, weapon of Freya, a red mane. Greatsword decorated with a mane, much like the weapons used by her liege. The spirit of Freya's training lingers in this sword, enhancing the power of Redmane battle skills. Bloodhound's Fang. Curved greatsword with a gently undulating blade wielded by the Bloodhound Knights, a fearsome blade capable of brutal airborne attacks. Onyx Lord's Greatsword. Greatsword forged from golden-hued meteoric ore. The blade conceals gravity-manipulating magic, a weapon unique to the Onyx Lords, a race of ancients with skin of stone who were said to have risen to life when a meteor struck long ago. Again, everything goes back to the meteor. You gotta think about meteors. Zamor Curved Sword. Weapon wielded by the Knights of Zamor who earned great renown during the war against the Giants. An apparent devotion to winter, the curved blade is styled after an icy wind and imbued with a powerful frost effect. The Magma Worm Scale Sword. Curved greatsword wielded by magma worms. This shape resembles a dragon's jaw and is covered in hard scales. It is said these land-bound dragons were once human heroes who partook in dragon communion, a grave transgression for which they were cursed to crawl the earth upon their bellies, shadows of their former selves. So magma worms were humans who did the dragon communion and got dragon incantations. Um, which I definitely can't relate to. It's not like I'm full of them. And so they were cursed, but I don't know. I think that's a skill issue because I'm fine. The Horned Warrior's Greatsword. Curved greatsword of the Horned Warriors, keeper of the tower. A heavy weapon made to bring the death strength of the warriors to bear. The ornamental tangled horns allow the blade to serve as a medium for horn calling. The Backhand Blade. Curved blade wielded with a backhand grip, a type of weapon wielded by the Hornsent for generations. The style of combat associated with this weapon is marked by spinning slashes and gouging thrust attacks. The Smith's Script Cirque. Circular backhand blade engraved with Smith's Script, a throwing weapon created through the smithing arts. Execute strong attacks to throw the backhand blade, causing it to fly in a curved trajectory, incompatible with Ashes of Wars that grant skills with an affinity. Okay, now we're getting into the katanas. The Uji Katana, a katana with a long, single-edged curved blade, a unique weapon wielded by the samurai from the land of reeds. The blade, with its undulating design, boasts extraordinary sharpness, and its slashed attacks cause blood loss. Nakahiba, katana with a ferociously long blade, signature weapon of Yura, hunter of bloody fingers. Reminiscent of a reinforced spear, its imposing length can be put to good use with powerful thrusting attacks. Serpent Bone Blade. Sinister katana modeled after serpent bone. The densely packed row of spines that jet away from the cutting edge are coated in a lethal poison. Meteoric Ore Blade. Katana forged from the meteoric ore to dispatch lifeforms born of falling stars. Deals magic damage. The blade is weighty, known to deliver slashes of such ferocity that the impact is said to resemble the crash of a falling meteor. I know all y'all know this one. The Moon Veil. Katana forged of glintstone, masterpiece of a Celian swordsmith. Light enwreaths the blade when sheathed, explaining its Moonveil moniker. River, Rivers of Blood. Weapon of Okina, swordsman from the land of reeds. A cursed weapon that has felled countless men. When Moog, the Lord of Blood, first felt Okina's sword and madness upon his flesh, he had a proposal to offer Okina the life of a demon whose thirst would never go unsated. The Star-Line Sword. Sword encrusted with a line of stars fashioned from small pieces of crude glintstone. Weapons of the demi-human swordsmen. When bestowed with this weapon by their queen, the swordsmen swear to find the truth that lies at the end of the procession of stars. The Dragon Hunter's Great Katana. Great katana with the spines of gravel along stone along its blade, wielded by the ancient dragon man of the dragon's pit. Has an anti-dragon effect. Formerly a dragon communion warrior, the ancient dragon man was once arbiter of those worthy to devour the dreaded one. And he does mean Baal, the accursed or whatever. Uh, Rakshas, Rakshasa's great katana. Uh, I'm I'm gonna be crucified for that. I know it. A great katana with the tempering pattern of its blade forever stained red with blood. Weapon of Rakshasa, who cuts down and devours. A berserker's weapon used to endure enemies' attack and reply with one's full fury. When attacking, the wielder is less likely to stagger from counterattacks, but will also take increased damage. The Twin Knight Swords. An attractive twin blade of fine make that prizes the chivalric way. Can be wielded with a single hand, but its true strength is unlocked with dual-handed spinning attacks. The Godskin Peeler. I love this weapon and its title because it's so visceral. Unique twin blade wielded by Godskin apostles characterized by its disturbing design. One end features a sickle for slicing attacks, while the other boasts a winding spike for boring into the flesh. Much skill is required to wield this weapon due to its asymmetric nature. The Gargoyle's Twin Blade. Bronze twin blade wielded by valiant gargoyles. Just like the wielder, the missing parts have been mended with corpse wax, a patchwork of champions. Bronze twin blade wielded by valiant gargoyles mended with blackened corpse wax deals holy damage. Such is the mark of those who serve Malakath, the Black Blade, and that is the gargoyles' black blades, which I have also +9. Eleonora's pole blade. Twin Naginata forged in the land of reeds. Chosen weapon of Eleonora, Violet Bloody Finger. Her mastery of the sword was such that her onslaught was likened to a whirlwind, but now her legacy is stained by accursed blood. The Euphoria, which is another DLC weapon that's pretty popular. Twin blades symbolizing abundance. The secret treasure of the tower. Though the blades fashioned from golden shoots are largely wilted and darkened, their luster can be restored by dealing damage to foes. However, damage dealt to those who live in death will have no such effect. Basic hand axe. And Iron Cleaver. Fairly large iron cleaver commonly used by the maltreated misbegotten. Steeped in resentment, these weapons are swung wildly and relentlessly, often after rushing up to foes. Highland Axe. Single-sided axe used by the warriors of the Highlands. Brave combatants begin battle by crying out their names. Roars are enhanced by this weapon. The Smith Script Axe, which I believe is a DLC throwing axe. Axe engraved with a smith script, a throwing weapon created through the smithing arts. Execute a strong attack or jumping strong attack to throw the axe. Incompatible with Ashes of War that grant skills with an affinity. The Sacrificial Axe. Hatchet used in ancient sacrificial rite. A death bird is depicted as a malevolent deity. The power of the rite yet lingers. A small amount of FP is restored upon slaying a foe. Ice Rind Hatchet. A hatchet with frost-coated blade. One of several gifts given by Castle Sol in the distant north. Known as Freezing Fog, the blade is thought to be a dragon's scale, inflicts a powerful frost effect. The Rippled Blade. Unique weapon wielded by the young Albinorix. This sword is modeled after the ripples that are thought to be the origin of their species. Its attack power is greatly enhanced with one's arcane attribute. The Stormhawk Ox. It's a Stormhawk axe, actually. Battle axe designed to resemble a hawk, with its wings comprising the blade. Signature weapon of warriors who strive to remain one with the storm, despite being so far from their place of birth. Their hearts are proud, and thereby easily undone. Oh. Mm. Rosas's axe. See, this one got the possessive S right. Usher of Death, Rosas, who showed the path to the catacombs throughout the lands between, is depicted on this ritual axe. The dead easily lose their way, and have always been in sore need of a guiding hand. The Death Knight's Twin Axe, which is a DLC weapon. Golden War Axes of the Death Knight, a pair of weapons made to be wielded in both hands. Crackles with lightning, the power of Capital's ancient dragon's cult. The knight, once the personal guard of Godwyn, was also the protector of the Prince of Death's cadaver surrogate. Oh, the surrogate, because they probably couldn't show his real body. Mm, I have heard a theory that Godwyn was, like, messed up since the start, and all these stories of Godwyn the Golden being perfect, uh, it, I'm starting to doubt it, because, like, what if he was born with the mermaid tail? We don't know. He could have been. Especially if he had to have a cadaver surrogate. Although that could be explained by his cadaver still, like, being alive. Or his, you know what I mean. Great axe. A great axe akin to a huge lump of iron, recognized as the weapon of choice of Badland chieftains. Too heavy to be wielded by those of merely ordinary strength, blows from this axe will flatten enemies, and the force of its charged attack is a sight to behold. Crescent Moon Axe. Great axe with a large, arcing blade and long handle. The crescent moon of its name is said to have been spurred by nostalgia. Specializes in sweeping through foes by making use of its long handle. The Long Shaft Axe. Large iron axe with a long handle. Weapon of the maltreated misbegotten. Making use of the force generated by its length, this weapon's resentment-charged blows are difficult to stop. The Great Omen Killer Cleaver. The blade of this huge, loathsome cleaver comprises a row of amputated omen horns, weapon of slaughter wielded by omen killers. The hideous horns cause blood loss, adding vibrant colors to the ongoing mayhem. The Rusted Anchor. A rusty anchor wielded as a weapon. Each of its 4 flukes is thick and sharp, enabling piercing attacks. When the Tarnished left the lands between with their lord, one boat alone was said to have been left behind. The Sacred Butchering Knife, which is DLC. Huge carving knife that made to cleanly butcher the human body. Signature weapon of the Ogress Anastasia, known to have eaten countless Tarnished while disguised as a finger maiden. Restores a small amount of HP when it squarely strikes an enemy. No, this isn't. Because this is Barbaric Roar. The DLC one is a honed blade. This is it. Bonnie Butchering Knife. Weapon of the greater potentates of Bonnie Village. An outsize butcher's cleaver used to dismember human bodies in the makings of great jars stored in the jails. Restores a very small amount of HP when it squarely strikes an enemy. Gargoyle's Great Axe. Bronze great axe wielded by valiant gargoyles. Just like the wielder, the missing parts have been mended with corpse wax, a patchwork of champions. This is another valiant gargoyle who served Malakath, who lived in death. Death Knight's Longshaft Axe. A long-hafted golden axe wielded by the Death Knight bears a representation of a decayed golden ring, crackles with lightning, the power of the capital's ancient dragon cult. Uh, the knight, once the personal guard of Godwyn, was also the protector of the Prince of Death's cadaver surrogate. Um, Putrescent's Cleaver. Weapon wielded by the Putrescent Knight. A great cleaver of hardened putrescence, affixed to an arch fashioned from human bones. Gains power from the wielder's arcane attribute. Club. Spiked Club. A club with beast fangs wrapped around the striking end. The uneven spread of fangs causes blood loss. Given only to the roughest of demi-humans, this weapon is a badge of honor, or so the demi-humans believe. Warpick. Battle hammer with a hard, protruding beak. A pickaxe designed for combat in essence. A simple but highly effective weapon, the weighty piercing attack casually rips through metal armor. Hammer. Hammer comprised of a large stone affixed to a metal handle, originally a blacksmith's tool. The art of smithing is said to have originated among the giants. This weapon's striking attacks boast ample weight behind them. Vare's Bouquet. A steel mace resembling a charming bouquet of roses. Each petal has a sharpened edge, leaving the roses perpetually colored with blood. The weapon reflects White Mass Vare's manner of speech rather well, enticing in its splendor, but full of deadly consequence. That weapon's good, just because it's very nice looking. The Envoy's Horn. Golden horn of the Oracle Envoys. Profoundly weighty, its blows are sure to be felt. Originally an instrument, but one that cannot be sounded by a mere human, or perhaps it is too early to sound the call. Ring and Finger. Bludgeon made of an enormous finger sheathed in several heavy rings, thought to have been cut from an ancestor of the finger creeper. Some life yet remains in the legacy of an ancient act of blasphemy, as evidenced by the barely perceptible warmth it still exudes. Scepter of the All-Knowing. Scepter in the form of a hand grasping a pearl. A signature weapon of Sir Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing. The pearl stands for the world, the heavens, and an eye, representing the many forms of knowledge never fully attainable, even knowing that the all-knowing's hand grasps for it. The Flowerstone Gravel, which I believe is DLC. Weapon of the Dragon Communion Priestess. A dragonstone hammer resembling an ancient flower. The four petals in the flower's core are all sharp, ending in points, and are capable of dealing heavy damage to dragons. America's Hammer, which is a favorite of mine. Stone hammer made in the lands of the Numen, outside the lands between. The tool with which Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring and Radagon attempted to repair it. The hammer partially broke upon shattering the ring, becoming splintered with rune fragments. Flail. Basic weapon. Knight Rider Flail. A flail with two additional bludgeoning heads. Weapon of the Knight's Cavalry who ride funeral steeds. The large spikes make it highly effective at inducing blood loss, but also demand higher dexterity to wield. Family Heads. Three budgeting copper heads attached to a handle by chains. Signature weapon of the Necromancer Garrus, the heretical sage. The heads were made to resemble those of his wife and two children. Brick Hammer. Weapon made from an ordinary stone brick, wielded by a laborer who led a rebellion and later became a champion himself. Even among other bludgeons of its size, this weapon is especially weighty. The strength of a giant is required to wield it. Battle Hammer. Large iron great hammer designed for gladiatorial combat, used by duelists who are exiled from the Colosseum. Weighty enough to crush armor and its wearer alike. Celebrant Skull. Large bludgeon decorated with flowers and many colored fabrics. Ceremonial tool used by dancers using the festivities of Dominula, Windmill Village. The striking end is a skull too large to be in size to be human. Grants trace amounts of runes on landing attacks. Great stars. Huge bludgeon with 3 stars at the striking end. Though primarily a striking weapon, the star spikes cause blood loss. A blood-stained star is an ill omen, a fact not lost upon those against whom this weapon is brought to bear. Landing attack slightly restores HP. The Black Steel Great Hammer, which is also DLC. Weapon of the Black Knights, servants of Mesmer the Impaler. Great hammer of black steel with decorative embellishments in gold, blessed with an Erd Tree incantation. Further holy imbuements will amplify the effect and greatly increase the armament's power. Guard counters cause a burst of power. Smithscript Great Hammer. Sorry, I'm like losing it here at the end. I took some Delta 8 gummies from a gas station, and I am feeling really good. Great hammer engraved with the smith script, a throwing weapon created through the smithing arts. Execute a strong attack or dashing strong attack to spin and fling the great hammer. Incompatible with Ashes of War that grant skills with an affinity. Great horn hammer. Huge thick horn carved with tree ring-like markings adapted into a bludgeoning weapon, wielded by ancestral follower warriors. The ancient horn is imbued with the power of ancestral spirits. A small amount of HP is restored upon defeating the enemy. Envoy's Longhorn. Long golden horn of the Oracle Envoys. Profoundly weighty, its blows are sure to be felt. Originally an instrument, but one that cannot be sounded by a mere human, or perhaps it is too early to sound the call. The envoys only appear and play for the coming of a new era or the coming of a new god. Um, so, Cranial Vessel Candlestand. Candlestand used in worship of Birak, the most hallowed monk prelate of the Giant's Flame. Concerned over the lazy arrogance with which the monks treated the flame, Birak served his own head as a lesson to others, intending it to be used as a candlestand. His faith yet smolders from within the cranial vessel. Beastclaw Great Hammer. The great hammer with a striking end modeled to resemble 5 beastly claws. The black nails protruding from the golden fur are said to represent Sarash, Lord of Beast, who went on to become King Godfrey's regent. The Devourer's Scepter. Scepter in the shape of a serpent devouring the world. This weapon will one day become the very symbol of the Lord of Blasphemy, one of the legendary armaments. A vision of the future briefly seen by Rykard in his final moments before being devoured by the Great Serpent. Okay, I think that's all we're gonna have time for, because I can only, with my limited PS5 editing things, I can only upload about hour-long videos at the max, so I do hope you enjoyed. I guess I will be commenting back to Amalaglomata that I'm going to upload this. So, thanks a lot for stopping by and listening. Thank you for bearing with me with my little idiosyncrasies, my neuroses, one might say. Um, and I hope you have a good day. It's currently the day before Christmas Eve. I've just done all my shopping. I'm surrounded by stuffed animals and cats. I hope you're comfy. I'm thinking about doing some more ASMR with like Stardew Valley and stuff. Because I do love making ASMR, and I'm very thankful to those of you who comment, and, you know, even liking the videos is very much appreciated. So, good luck to you, good luck to us all, and have a Merry Christmas. Goodbye.